We will begin our assault on The Last Jedi by examining the second worst aspect of the movie. Why not the worst aspect?
A good question. For another time.
We all know what the worst part of The Last Jedi is: Luke Skywalker's deconstruction. That topic has been exhaustively covered on YouTube, and while I will touch on it in this video, going over Luke's character assassination in detail would be like launching an attack on the Super Star Destroyer after the Battle of Endor. Let us instead commence our attack by focusing all fire on the plot. The plot of The Last Jedi is more broken than Anakin at the conclusion of his lesson in why you don't attack the high ground. When broken down into its constituent segments, the plot of The Last Jedi consists of a chase scene, 3 fetch quests, and 3 battles. The chase scene is the Last Order's pursuit of the Resistance. This lasts the entire movie. The fetch quests are Rey trying to fetch Luke for Leia, Rose of the Potato Sack and her wacky sidekick Finn heading off to fetch a codebreaker, and Rey leaving Craggy Island to redeem Ben Solo and fetch him for the light side of the Force. A plot element I will henceforth be referring to as Reylo. The 3 battles are the opening Imperial attack on the hidden rebel base on Hoth Stand-In, the throne room lightsaber battle, and the battle on Salt Hoth. All of these segments make no sense. The chase scene is the central plot around which the entire movie revolves, and it has a nonsensical premise. The script informs the audience that the reason the Resistance can't escape the First Order is that the First Order are tracking the Resistance fleet through lightspeed, and the Resistance only have enough fuel left for 1 lightspeed jump. Okay. The solution is simple and obvious. Every hyperdrive ship in the fleet simultaneously jumps to a random Resistance-friendly system. Upon arrival in the system, they get planetside ASAP and melt into the friendly populace. The First Order are probably only tracking 1 rebel ship, and so will lose track of almost the entire Resistance. But even if they are tracking every ship, in the time it takes them to set up the logistics for a pursuit in many different directions, the rebels will have spirited themselves away among friendly populations. But the rebels in TLJ have the collective brain function of a developmentally delayed Tusken Raider, so no one thinks of this obvious solution. Not Leia, not Holdo, not Poe. There are other major problems with the chase scene, but we'll get to those in the plot holes section. As I pointed out in my The Force Awakens video, Rey's fetch quest made no sense from the word go. Why would Leia send a girl she met 26 seconds ago to fetch Luke? In Leia's Disneyfied and thus retarded mind, retrieving Luke is the single most important task the Resistance can pursue. Really, Leia should have gone to Luke herself. Instead, she sends a rookie rebel she met an hour ago who no one has ever heard of. When Luke makes it clear that he won't be returning to the fight because it's 2017, and in 2017, men aren't allowed to be heroes anymore, Rey's prerogative then becomes to return to Leia and say,
Queen Leia, General Organa, sorry for a second there. I forgot you'd been updated for a modern audience anyway. Luke won't leave Rian Johnson's script because he's been updated for a modern audience. Maybe you should go remind him that he's Luke Skywalker and not a mouthpiece for a deconstructionist feminist agenda.
But instead, Rey stays on Craggy Island and starts training with Luke. Love, this is not what Leia sent you there for. You were supposed to make contact with Luke and bring him back to the Resistance. That's it. If leaving without Luke makes you feel morally ill at ease, then make a quick confession to Father Ted, get back to the fleet, and tell them they need to send somebody else to go get Luke, you insubordinate wench. The second fetch quest is Reylo. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I love Reylo. Reylo is the one aspect of TLJ that I can ironically enjoy. The subplot of Rey and Kylo meeting on Force Tinder and having a series of online chats before Rey gets honey-dicked into meeting Kylo is too good not to enjoy, and fair play to Rian Johnson for accurately depicting modern dating.
So tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm 28, a heart surgeon, though I sometimes do underwear modelling on weekends. My first business is about to launch an IPO, and I spend much of my time volunteering at my local homeless shelter.
How tall are you?
I'm 5 foot 11 inches tall.
Oh my God, get away from me, you creepy loser. So what's your story?
I'm a total psychopath. I slaughtered children at Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple, participated in the genocide of billions, and murdered my own father.
Oh my God, he's so hot, I can totally fix him.
This is the one aspect of Disney Star Wars that is consistent with the OT. Women in dating. In the OT, who does Leia go for? The morally upstanding farm boy who never chose to be anything other than a hero who willingly risks his lives for others? Or the smuggler and scoundrel who is out for himself and openly states that he doesn't give a damn about anyone he's not paid to give a damn about? And who does Rey go for? The hero who almost died defending her, or the guy that almost killed him? Women. Am I right, boys? What exactly is Rey's plan for when she arrives at Kylo's place? Convince Kylo that he's actually good during the 5-minute journey to Snoke's throne room, then escape with him? Even if she turns Kylo back into Ben Solo, they will both be captured and killed there and then. Rey's endeavor to fix him doesn't even qualify as stupid. It's insane, and don't tell me that it's no different to Luke trying to redeem Vader. Luke saw the redemption of Vader as his destiny, and he had no illusions that he would leave the second Death Star alive.
Soon I'll be dead, and you with me.
And let's be real here, son. We all know what happens every time a girl thinks she can fix a bad boy alpha chad.
If I go to him, Ben Solo will turn.
5 minutes later.
Mom told me to pick the best one, and you are it!
My biggest issue with Reylo is that it leads nowhere. It's a circular arc. Rey and Kylo end up right back where they started at the end of it. The ideal endpoint of Reylo would have been for Rey to turn to the dark side. Rian Johnson thinks of The Last Jedi as a highly subversive work of cinema, but it really isn't. There are a bunch of cheap twists tossed in there for audience shock value, but when TLJ has the opportunity to do something truly subversive and shocking, the movie instead plays it safe. Rey should have turned to the dark side after she and Kylo killed Snoke and the Praetorian Guard. Rey gives in to Kylo and becomes a Dark Queen of the Force. At the same moment Rey turns to the dark side, Finn force grabs a saber and uses it to kill Phasma. We discover that the Last Jedi was not Rey, but Finn.
Oh my God.
His force powers awaken within him, and he goes off with Leia to train to become a Jedi and defeat Reylo in the third movie. That would have been truly subversive. Not, look everyone, I broke JJ's Palpatine knockoff action figure. Don't you feel subverted? The third fetch quest is Rose of the Potato Sack and her sidekick heading off to find a code breaker so they can break into the Star Destroyer and disable the tracking device, thus allowing the Rebel fleet to escape. This subplot has more holes than General Grievous's latest lightsaber practice victim. If Rose, her sidekick, and Poe have figured out that the First Order are tracking the fleet from only one ship, why don't they suggest all Rebel ships take off in separate directions? It will be impossible for the First Order to track all of the fleeing ships from a single ship console. The trio contact Maz, the plot device from The Force Awakens. The plot device informs them of a code breaker who might be on planet Vegas, possibly because trust me bro. The trio trust her bro, so Rose heads to planet Vegas with her trusty sidekick following at her heels. There is no guarantee that the code breaker will be on planet Vegas, or that they will find him, or that he will agree to work for them, or that they can get back to the fleet in time even if he does. The plan has too many mission critical variables. At this stage, the trio would just grab whoever the best codebreaker in the fleet is and go for it. Or infiltrate the Star Destroyer and force an Imperial officer to open the doors to the tracker at gunpoint. Similar to what Finn did in The Force Awakens when he got Brienne of Darth to lower the shields on Death Star 3 by holding a blaster to her blaster-proof armor. Rose and her sidekick managed to fly away from the fleet without the First Order noticing. This confirms that the First Order cannot track every ship in the Rebel fleet and may only be tracking one. Why do Rose and her sidekick not then inform the fleet of the possibility of splitting up and taking off in many directions? Why do the Resistance not have a single expert codebreaker within their ranks or on their personnel files? Surely they would have a codebreaker on board whose job it is to decode First Order communications. If the Resistance are so incompetent that they don't have a sprawling network of capable agents spread across the galaxy as excellently depicted in Andor, then the Resistance are not fit for purpose and deserve to be eradicated so that the mantle of chief resistor to the forces of evil can be taken up by a more capable organization. The three battles in TLJ are the First Order attack on the Rebel base, the Throne Room lightsaber battle, and the Battle of Salt Hoth. The movie opens with the attack on the Rebel base. There is no explanation for how the First Order found the base, or why the Rebels didn't escape sooner, since it seems that they were aware of the First Order's impending arrival. The First Order are able to bomb the Rebel base from orbit because the Rebels don't have a deflector shield. Leia, the leader of the Rebels, was with the rebellion on Hoth. She knows the vital importance of having a shield to protect from orbital attack, so why did she allow this base to be set up without a shield? The Rebels' escape plan depends entirely on Poe's genius-level piloting skills. This plan was greenlit by Leia personally, but later Leia tells Poe this.
There are things that you cannot solve by jumping in an X-Wing and blowing something up.
Also, why is the Rebel plan so shockingly bad? Why don't they have ion cannons like on Hoth, or some other reliable means of disabling attacking ships? Why and how did Leia become the galaxy's worst military leader after Return of the Jedi? She was once a highly capable officer. The First Order sees Poe's attack but wait until it's too late to deploy their fighters because the plot requires this delay. Poe overrides Leia's order to retreat. Leia protests but does nothing. Leia is in communication with Poe's bombers. She could order them to retreat, but she doesn't. Why does Leia hang around with the rest of the fleet when Poe is launching an attack on the Dreadnought? Why does she not leave one ship to retrieve Poe and order the rest to jump away? How do bombs drop in space without a means of propulsion? These look like Y-wing bombs, which are designed for terrestrial combat. All munitions in space combat in Star Wars are projectiles, either lasers or rockets, because, you know, 0G. The Last Jedi's opening battle is an absolute ruin, riddled with plot holes, nonsensical physics, and illogical character decision making. And don't worry, we'll get to Leia's iconic Mary Poppins in space scene later in the video. TLJ's second battle is the Throne Room lightsaber battle. This scene is infamous for its horrendous fight choreography and is widely considered the worst fight scene in Star Wars. A YouTuber named Michael J did an excellent video explaining in detail how atrocious the choreography in this scene is. Ironically, the Throne Room scene was widely hailed as brilliant when it first came out.
That lightsaber battle also works, right? That lightsaber battle is really, that scene is one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars canon.
That scene is like a microcosm of The Force Awakens, highly praised for about 5 minutes until the internet realized how bad it was, and eventually the only people left praising it were Disney shills and copium addicts. The setup for the Throne Room fight is insufficient. What is Rey's plan? Her task, which has been assigned to her by the leader of the Resistance, is to retrieve Luke. So why is she going off on a side quest to hook up with some guy she met on Force Tinder? Girl, are you an astromech droid? Because you are too hot.
Are you going to teach me how to duel with your big lightsaber?
I might. But first I'm going to show you my awesome force choke.
I knew it was you I was sensing when I felt a great disturbance in my panties.
If I made you my apprentice, would you get on your knees before me?
You don't need to make me your apprentice to get me on my knees.
You're hotter than the hole I left in Han Solo. Rey heading off to hook up with Kylo doesn't go anywhere. It is just Rian Johnson's excuse to set up Kylo's assassination of Snoke, which is the best part of the movie. Snoke was an empty Palpatine knockoff. Rather than pretend otherwise, Rian Johnson just kills him. This is correct. And it looks cool. The follow-through should have been to make Reylo the new big bad and set up Finn as the Last Jedi, but Rian didn't do that because TLJ isn't a masterpiece of cinematic subversion, it's a Disney movie. The third battle is the Battle of Salt Hoth, which is another plot hole-ridden mess similar to the attack on Hoth stand-in. But while the opening battle's premise was merely broken, the Battle of Salt Hoth's premise is shattered to pieces. The First Order have just been wrecked by Rian Johnson's lore-annihilating Holdo maneuver. Their supreme leader is dead. Their flagship is destroyed. Many of their capital ships are destroyed. This is a Battle of Endor level event. At this very moment, many low-level officers and enlisted men will be grabbing what loot they can and bolting. Within hours, word will spread throughout the galaxy that the First Order are done, massive uprisings will begin, First Order generals will declare themselves independent warlords of the systems they are ruling over, many systems will rebel, those that are loyal to the First Order but are not under direct occupation will declare independence. The First Order fleet is an absolute mess right now. Their chain of command has been decimated, morale has been destroyed, their fleet logistics have been so broken by Holdo's attack that launching any coherent military operation is now impossible. The only priority right now is to round up as many survivors of the attack as possible and get to the nearest loyal system in order to regroup. Instead, Kylo declares himself supreme leader despite there being no clear order of succession. Kylo somehow communicates this change in leadership to the survivors of the Holdo maneuver despite the attack rendering fleet-wide communication impossible. The survivors go along with the sudden change in leadership because Rian Johnson wrote the script. They somehow bring a well-organized, well-supported attack down to Salthoth and waste time attacking the pathetic little remnant of a thoroughly beaten rebellion while First Order power collapses across the galaxy. The premise of the Battle of Salthoth is so irretrievably broken that the plot holes don't even matter. They're just piss on top of the shit. Imagine if the Rohirrim arrived at the gates of Minas Tirith in helicopters and a viewer jumped up and cried, "That doesn't make any sense! That model of helicopter can't fly the distance from Rohan to Minas Tirith without refueling." That is what pointing out plot holes in the Battle of Salthoth is like. It's irrelevant, but I'll discuss them in the plot hole section, I guess. As anyone who has watched the OT can attest, Luke Skywalker turning into a misanthrope and taking off to a hermitage on Craggy Island to hide like a coward is a total inversion of his established character. Mark Hamill himself told Rian Johnson that The Last Jedi's version of Luke was wrong.
I said to Ryan, Jedis don't give up. I mean, even if he had a problem, he would maybe take a year to try and regroup. But if he made a mistake, he would try and right that wrong. So right there, we had a fundamental difference. But it's not my story anymore. It's somebody else's story. And that's the crux of my problem. Luke would never say that. I'm sorry. Well, in this version, see, I'm talking about the George Lucas Star Wars. This is the next generation of Star Wars. So I almost had to think of Luke as another character. Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
Watching Luke in The Last Jedi is totally immersion breaking because this isn't Luke. This is just shite anti-Star Wars fanfiction. Luke Skywalker seriously considers murdering his own teenage nephew. He loses a duel to a novice. He advocates for the abolition of the Jedi. Rewatching The Last Jedi, by far the most irritating aspect of the movie is Luke's constant meta-dialogue. For example, in this scene, Luke speaks not to Rey, but to the Star Wars fanbase.
What did you think was going to happen here?
Rian Johnson uses Luke as a mouthpiece to express Ryan's ideas. It's unnaturalistic, cheesy, amateur, sixth form writing that makes my fucking ears bleed.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
Sorry, wrong clip.
You don't need Luke Skywalker. It's time for the Jedi to end. The legacy of the Jedi is failure.
Luke's dialogue sounds like something a 16-year-old English student would write after his teacher introduces him to the concept of misanthropy and the misanthrope character archetype. But character assassination aside, Luke on Craggy Island is simply dreadful cinema. Who in their right testicle wants to watch Luke Skywalker mill around a wet rock off the coast of Ireland for half the movie? Criticisms of The Last Jedi have been so focused on Luke's character assassination that they often fail to point out just how mind-fuckingly boring this subplot is. The principal hero of the franchise spends the entire movie grouching around Craggy Island, then does a brief hologram performance and dies. He spends 2 movies on a miserable heap of bird shit stained rock, which he never leaves. If you had asked 10,000 die-hard Star Wars fans what they envisaged for Luke in the sequels, 0 would have said he hangs around Craggy Island complaining about stuff for 2 movies.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris.
3 hours later.
They all suck, and their music sucks, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I hope they all go to hell, and that Satan takes his pitchfork and pokes them in their stupid asses. They all burn forever, because they're all a bunch of rotten posers.
Then dies of a force overdose. But be under no illusions. Luke was never getting off Craggy Island. Kathleen Kennedy was not going to allow some old patriarchal character from the dark times to steal the spotlight from her perfect heroine. I mean, hero, because we don't use sexist, gendered language anymore. Right!
But I didn't say anything.
Every segment of The Last Jedi's plot is totally broken. The Craggy Island subplot, the movie-long chase, the battles, the fetch quests. Of all the movies I have reviewed on this channel, there are only two that come close to being this broken. The Marvels and a 2013 movie called Trance. See my Danny Boyle video for details. And I haven't even mentioned the vast majority of TLJ's plot holes. Now, I want to briefly examine Rian Johnson's arguments told through Luke. In order to avoid copyright claims, I have had to use advanced AI to recreate the scenes in question. Karen iPhone, roll it. And this is the lesson. That force does not belong to the Jedi. To say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. Can you feel that? Yes, Ryan. I was 15 years old too once. If humanity dies, life will continue to thrive without us, so what makes us so important? And Ryan's argument here is a straw man. No Jedi ever asserted that the Force belongs to the Jedi. The opposite is true. The Jedi believed that they were servants of the Force, and that by opening themselves up to the Force, they would be instruments of its will. And when the Jedi assert that without the Jedi, the galaxy will become subjugated under darkness, they are not saying that the Force itself will end. They are saying that in the absence of the Jedi, the Sith will rise to ultimate power through the dark side, and that this will result in great misery, which is true. Luke himself personally witnessed the truth of this assertion when he saw the ruins of Alderaan. Now that they're extinct, the Jedi are romanticized, but if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure, hypocrisy, hubris. At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader. Here, Ryan asserts that a historical entity is to be judged only on its ultimate failure. To judge the Jedi on this basis would be like dismissing the Roman Empire as a failure because it failed to prevent the rise of the Muslim Caliphate in the East, and because the Western Roman Empire's collapse gave rise to the Dark Ages and a disunity of Europe that continues to this day. But this criticism fails to take into account the vast achievements of the Roman Empire before the onset of the Empire's final disasters and Rome's legal and philosophical advancements, which formed the basis of Western civilization, a civilization that created the modern world and liberated much of humanity from barbarism. Before the rise of Darth Sidious, the Galactic Republic, which the Jedi protected, lasted 25,000 years. That is a deific achievement, one which stands as a testament to the Jedi and definitive proof that the Jedi Order must continue. Using a character as a mouthpiece to launch a general criticism of the Jedi was also featured in The Acolyte.
I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power, posing as a religion, a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable.
Good writing.
I heard about the Elephant Man in a restaurant, but I didn't make it to send any message. I made it because I loved the story and the time of the story and the mood of the story and all these different things that swam with, the story.
Bad writing.
I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power.
The legacy of the Jedi is failure.
There can be no greater condemnation of a piece of entertainment media than to liken it to The Acolyte. See my 3.5 hour long Acolyte video for details. Luke in The Last Jedi is a dreadful character. Character assassination aside, he's tedious, arbitrary, flaky, sophomoric, and boring. Rian Johnson gets all the flack from the fandom for Luke's assassination, but I think this is unjust. A huge portion of the blame goes to Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. Luke's deconstruction had already been initiated in The Force Awakens. TFA turns Luke into a failed Jedi Master. A fucking Padawan defeats him, slaughters his students, and destroys his temple. And rather than pursue Kylo and bring him to justice, Luke runs away, flees to Craggy Island to cower in shame. That was all The Force Awakens. Rian Johnson's treatment of Luke just follows the blueprint set out in TFA. The notion that Luke Skywalker was going to somehow come to life in episode 8 was a massive copium overdose by the fandom. Luke was never getting off Craggy Island. Watching him on screen in TLJ is dispiriting by design. The Craggy Island sequences are like one long, drawn-out sigh, depressing and monotonous. Later in the video, I will get more into how, contrary to general consensus, The Last Jedi mostly follows through on the story elements set up in The Force Awakens. Now let us turn to the rest of the characters and the complete absence of character arcs. Rey's arc is that she goes from being a massively overpowered Mary Sue to an even more massively overpowered Mary Sue. She remains morally perfect throughout and is never even vaguely tempted by the dark side. Her arc is a flat line. She is the main character in the movie, yet I have dedicated the least amount of words to analysing her because she doesn't have a character. Rey is a female version of Luke Skywalker who possesses 10x upgrades of Luke's strengths and none of his weaknesses. Leia starts the movie as an absurdly incompetent leader, leading a disorganized, failed retreat from a base she was unable to keep hidden and which she neglected to have protected from orbital attack by a deflector shield. She finishes the movie as an absurdly incompetent leader by callously ordering the last of the fighting ranks to conduct a banzai charge against AT-ATs in slow-moving ground vehicles with negligible firepower across a flat, open plain. At the end of the movie, she flees with the pitiful remnant of the Resistance who have, by some miracle, survived her leadership. In a final, pathetic demonstration of her total inability to lead, she copes by vaguely asserting that the Resistance will somehow overcome the First Order because trust me, bro, Leia's arc is a flat line. Leia is every bit as character assassinated as Luke. Her abysmal leadership gets almost the entirety of the Resistance killed, and she throws the last handful of survivors against the First Order in a suicidal attack because maybe their sacrifice might slightly delay the inevitable breach of the door, possibly. Admiral Holdo is the most incompetent military officer in Star Wars, and Leia promoted her to Vice Admiral. Holdo is prickly, arrogant, domineering, has zero communication skills and no people skills. She has Brie Larson level charisma and her personality is about as inviting as a free sample stand at a cyanide factory. She is morale kryptonite, far more interested in aura farming than in keeping her subordinates informed and motivated. She withholds vital mission critical information from Poe that she has zero legitimate reason to withhold. She does this solely to grandstand. Holdo is a textbook toxic leader. Not only should Holdo not be commanding the fleet, she isn't fit to clean the toilets. I do not mean that as a figure of speech. If Holdo was placed in charge of cleaning the toilets, she wouldn't do it. She would just mope around with a salty look on her face because she would regard the essential work of cleaning shit off a bowl to be beneath her. She is literally worse than useless. Wherever she was assigned, Holdo would sap morale, make enemies, slow down operations, and get in the way. She's an HR Karen who failed upward until she was so vastly beyond her level of incompetence that she gets almost the entire Resistance killed. She could have ordered every ship to lightspeed jump away in a different direction. Instead, her plan is to trade lives for time so she can make it to some uncharted planet, hide there, and hope the First Order doesn't notice. A plan she keeps secret for no identifiable reason, and in her last act, she stands at the window and watches countless rebel ships get destroyed for 8 minutes before she finally decides to defend them with her ship. When she takes command, the field toilet cleaner spews out a few platitudes clearly written by ChatGPT. She offers no plan of escape, she gives no specific instructions to anyone, nor does she infer that she is even working on a plan. Karen iPhone, transfer all reserve power to the advanced AI video generator and create a copyright-free reproduction of Holdo's speech. 400 of us on 3 ships. We're the very last of the Resistance, but we're not alone. In every corner of the galaxy, the downtrodden and oppressed know our symbol, and they put their hope in it. We are the spark that will light the fire that will restore the Republic. That spark, this Resistance must survive. That is our mission. Now to your stations, and may the Force be with us. What? What? That's not a plan! And what do you mean, that is our mission? You haven't given anyone a mission. What is this? How are you planning to prevent our deaths? Why is this woman in charge? Can we send her back to the toilets? If getting this regally attired idiot out of command means I have to hover to take a shite because she won't clean the bowl, then so fucking be it. Compare Holdo's word salad of vacuous bilge to Leia's briefing to the pilots in The Empire Strikes Back during the evacuation of Hoth.
The heavy transport ships will leave as soon as they're loaded. Only 2 fighter escorts per ship.
Leia is confident and authoritative. Her manner encourages confidence in the pilots. She presents a clear plan, responds to questions, invites questions, and wishes everyone good luck. Every pilot leaves Leia's briefing knowing exactly what he has to do, how and when he has to do it, and what everyone else will be doing during the operation. No one at Holdo's pep talk has any idea of what they're supposed to be doing. They won't walk out of that briefing feeling confident. They will be horrified that they are now under the command of this purple-haired moron. Many of them will be thinking, if I don't get to an escape pod now, someone else will get there first, and I'll be left to die under the bumbling leadership of this Halo tiara sporting ponce. Holdo's incompetence is so absolute that many viewers thought she was a First Order spy when they first watched The Last Jedi. Many assumed she was the reason the First Order found the hidden rebel base and were able to track the fleet. A reasonable assumption because the movie never explains either of these plot points. Finn is turned into a tag-along. His status as Chief Diversity Token is usurped by Rose of the Potato Sack, and he is demoted to the position of Rose's sidekick. She flies, he sits down and shuts up. She plans, he agrees. She makes tedious speeches dripping with moral sanctimony. He affirms her. She leads, he follows. It's fucking pathetic. Once again, Finn's motivation is right. And on the one occasion when Finn tries to do something heroic that does not involve him being Rey's simp or Rose's sidekick, well, Rose starts out as a sanctimonious, conscientious hero and never strays from that path. She is the most boring character in the Disney sequel trilogy. Sexless, morally perfect, she possesses a midwit worldview characterized by childish naivety and a total deficiency of critical thinking skills. She never says anything memorable or expresses an interesting opinion. Even her accent and appearance are disgustingly boring. She speaks with a totally plain Middle American accent with no interesting idiosyncratic features such as Han's sardonic inflections or Leia's sassy cadences. If the sound of Rose was a flavour, it would be bland. Her voice isn't even interesting enough to qualify as vanilla.
Oh yeah, Cat. Words of wisdom. Drop that 0 and get with the hero.
As for her appearance, for the entire movie, she wears a shit brown corn sack, loosened at the waist so as not to scandalize the audience by accentuating her female form. The actress seemed absolutely determined to dress as provocatively as possible during promotion of the film, seemingly determined to make a defiant stand against Disney's demented insistence on uglifying her character to the extreme. Poe is used as a punching bag for feminism. Leia slaps him for winning a victory because it wasn't a flawless victory, and because male heroism is bad. Admiral, not even qualified to clean toilets, publicly puts him in his place. The movie invites the viewer to bask in his public emasculation. Leia knocks him out for the crime of trying to save the fleet. He gets nerfed by Rian Johnson's garbage writing when he agrees to go along with Rose and her sidekick's awful plan, and when he allows Leia to order the banzai charge against the AT-ATs, which he is forced to retreat from after a few utterly pointless casualties. Poe is like Davis. He's the whipping boy who never gets to win and is forced to eat shit for the entire movie. Right, Davis?
I said right. Actually, I think that
Kylo is evil, angry, murderous, and power-hungry for the entire movie. Like everyone else, his arc is a flat line. However, he's the most fun character by far. His chastisement and humiliation by Snoke is satisfying and a good setup for his later assassination of Snoke. He teams up with Rey to slaughter the Praetorian Guard, takes command through brute force, orders that his own mother be shot in cold blood, shouts, screams, and smashes stuff, and generally wants to kill as many people and do as much damage to as much stuff as possible. Luke finally accepting that Kylo is simply evil and telling Leia that he is beyond redemption is actually a good moment. It is Luke's only good moment. Kylo telling Rey the cold, hard truth about her Alco parents is the strongest moment in the entire movie. J.J. Abrams was setting up for some hideous cliche in which the hero is a blood relative of the plot.
It won't stop until they have it all.
It's you! It's you!
Yeah.
How could you? My own son!
It's a tired movie trope, and Rian Johnson tossing it in the trash along with Snoke's corpse was correct. Not everyone has to be a Skywalker or a Palpatine. This is a big galaxy. Some people are just born strong with the Force, and that's good. People aren't dogs. They don't require pedigree to be assigned value. But then, of course, the somehow return of Palpatine undid Rey's lack of pedigree because JJ was determined to demonstrate that his dick is bigger than Ryan's dick. But more on that in the next video. Kylo's problem in The Force Awakens is that his only motivation was to find Luke, which was an extremely weak motivation because Luke was not an active participant in the conflict or the plot, quite the opposite. In TLJ, Kylo wants to destroy the rebellion. He personally leads attacks to achieve this end. He wants to find Rey and use her to help him kill Snoke so he can declare himself supreme leader. He wants to turn her to the dark side, and as an afterthought, he wants to kill Luke. Kylo is the only redeeming aspect of The Last Jedi, and easily the best part of the movie. If Rey had gone over to the dark side and joined Kylo, Reylo could have been a great big bad for episode 9. Hux is the same histrionic caricature villain that he was in The Force Awakens. Ryan also uses him as a prop for cheap slapstick gags. Oh, and Brienne of Darth? She is so forgettable that I literally forgot to include her in this section and only went back to write this paragraph after consulting my notes. Right, moving on. Here is a very brief clip of my video on The Force Awakens detailing what JJ was setting up to do in episode 8. Rey is in an isolated region of the galaxy with a Jedi Master she has sought out. Snoke has commanded that Rey be brought to him. Kylo is now dead set on finding Rey. Finn is in a weakened state and could be easily captured if, say, the First Order launched a major attack on the hidden Resistance base at the start of episode 8. You've probably guessed by now where this was all intended to go. JJ was setting up to copy The Empire Strikes Back in episode 8. Craggy Island is Dagobah, Rey is Luke, Luke is Yoda, Snoke is Palpatine, Kylo is Vader, Poe is Han, and Finn is the bait that Kylo is going to use to draw Rey to him. The critical narrative that has emerged around the Disney sequel trilogy holds that JJ had no plan at all for episode 8, but he set story elements up well enough for the sequel to develop in an interesting direction. Then Rian Johnson ruined it all by ignoring JJ's setup and taking the trilogy in a wayward direction. In fact, JJ was setting up for a plagiarism of The Empire Strikes Back, and Rian Johnson actually follows JJ's blueprint quite closely, and in the process carries the story threads JJ set up in The Force Awakens to their natural conclusion. Much of The Last Jedi is a reskin of The Empire Strikes Back. The movie begins with an Imperial attack on the hidden Rebel base, and the Rebels deploy a clever trick to escape. A great battle takes place. The Rebels lose. During the retreat, a small group of rebels take off on their own and end up in an affluent city. There, they meet a man who will betray them to the Empire. An aspiring Jedi arrives at a remote planet seeking an old Jedi Master. The aspirant first argues with the Jedi, who is reluctant to train her, but after some badgering, the Master relents and agrees to train the upstart. During the training, she has a vision brought on by the dark side of the Force and determines to go confront the Sith Lord who is hunting her on the orders of the Emperor. The Force is with our young hero, but she is not a Jedi yet. Our hero engages in a confrontation with the Sith, then escapes. The captured rebels escape the trap and link up with our hero. At the end of the movie, our heroes escape the clutches of the Empire on the Millennium Falcon. The final scene shows a character staring in awe at a celestial body and dreaming of the fight to come. There's even a Battle of Hoth. Now let's look at how The Last Jedi mostly coheres with The Force Awakens character setup. Luke is established as a coward deserter in The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi portrays him as such, and does what it can to justify this portrayal. Leia is a criminally incompetent military leader in The Force Awakens. Her intelligence network, assuming she even bothered to set one up, failed to detect the First Order's completion of Death Star 3. She unquestioningly trusts a man who was working as a stormtrooper the day before to disable Death Star 3's shields, and sends him to accomplish this mission-critical task without an escort. She sends a girl she met an hour ago to retrieve Luke, despite the fact that this girl has only been with the Resistance for a few hours. In TLJ, Leia is equally incompetent. Rian Johnson's characterization of Leia is exactly in line with what was laid out in The Force Awakens. Finn has Rey fever in TFA. He still has Rey fever in TLJ. He spends most of TFA following a woman around. He spends most of TLJ following a woman around. He is exactly the same character in both movies. Poe is a hot rod in both movies, though The Last Jedi does force him to eat quantities of shit that even the Sarlacc pit would have trouble digesting, but at least he doesn't take it lying down, unlike Davis. Rey is Luke Skywalker with the cheat codes on in both movies. Hux is the same 14-year-old's idea of a villain as he was in TFA. Brienne of Darth is equally as irrelevant as she was in TFA. Kylo Ren murders his own father in TFA. He attempts to murder his own mother in TLJ. He is a psychopathic, blood-hungry hothead in both movies. There is no politics or world building in The Force Awakens. There is none in The Last Jedi. Snoke is a mystery box in TFA. We know nothing of his backstory or his rise to power. He remains a mysterious character in TLJ. We learn nothing about him. Fundamentally, Snoke is a stand-in for Emperor Palpatine. He has no innate value as a character, so in killing him, Rian Johnson destroys nothing of value. In fact, killing Snoke is correct because it reduces cast bloat and rids the trilogy of its second weakest character, the weakest being Rose Tico. Some critics of the decision to kill Snoke would argue that Rian Johnson should instead have done something with the character, but do what exactly? Snoke is a master Sith at the height of his power. He has nowhere to go in terms of political dominance or mastery of the Force. Giving him backstory would result in tedious exposition that would add nothing to the plot and plenty to the runtime, and would serve only to kill Snoke's soul-redeeming aspect: mystery. The only useful thing to be done with Snoke is... Also, killing Snoke frees up Kylo Ren to go off and do more interesting stuff in the next movie. As I pointed out earlier, Rian Johnson's mistake was not in killing Snoke, but in failing to replace him with Reylo. The Last Jedi is regarded, particularly by its shills, as a highly subversive movie. It isn't at all. It's mostly a rehash of The Empire Strikes Back. It closely follows the character setups and story threads introduced in The Force Awakens, and when it does have an opportunity to be truly subversive, it instead goes with the predictable, dull option. The biggest problem Rian Johnson created for Episode 9 is that he destroyed far too much of the Rebellion and the First Order. JJ intended to use Snoke as the Palpatine stand-in for the inevitable ripoff of Return of the Jedi in Episode 9, and with the Rebellion and First Order fleets destroyed, JJ couldn't do his planned Battle of Endor knockoff. Fortunately for JJ though, Palpatine somehow returned and found a Star Destroyer fleet underground. Then all the good guys came to fight them, so JJ got his Battle of Endor knockoff after all. After the destruction of the Rebel fleet, the Holdo maneuver, and the death of Snoke, both the First Order and the Resistance are geopolitical smurfs. The galaxy must now undergo balkanization. The First Order breaks up into warlord factions, and many systems declare independence, similar to what happened to China following the collapse of the Qing dynasty. I can't remember the geopolitical setup in the somehow Return of Palpatine, because I never really watched that movie. A cam copy was playing in the background, while I did to the Duchess what the Greenhouse Gang did to Davis. Many of The Last Jedi's problems originate in The Force Awakens. One of the main reasons The Last Jedi is so utterly abominable is because Rian Johnson didn't subvert what was set up in The Force Awakens. He went along with it. Rian could have gotten Luke off Craggy Island and back in the fight, and in doing so, subverted his TFA characterization. He chose not to. He could have had Rey turn to the dark side, or at least lose a battle, thus subverting her Mary Sue characterization. He didn't. He could have returned to Leia the mental faculties that Disney robbed her of in The Force Awakens. He didn't. He could have turned Finn from a simp into a character by making him a Jedi in training. He didn't. A handful of cheesy, betcha didn't see that coming moments does not make a movie subversive. Genuine artistic vision that goes against the shitty tropes of the day does. The original Star Wars is a far more subversive movie than The Last Jedi, because in the 70s cinema landscape filled with gritty, depressing, heroless mirror to society drags that were boring the shit out of everybody, Star Wars brought wonder, adventure, and heroism back to the movies. The Last Jedi was made at a time when wonder, adventure, and heroism were being shunned by Hollywood in favor of deconstructing old heroes, social engineering, postmodernism, and updating legacy franchises for the modern audience. The woke era. And what did The Last Jedi do? Deconstructed old heroes, vomited out woke messaging, pushed postmodern ideas, and continued Disney's update of Star Wars for a modern audience. I can't decide which is worse, The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. Both movies are such total fucking trash that I can't choose between them. I mean, I suppose if you held a lightsaber to my throat and forced me to rewatch one of them... Nope, not doing it, so you can get fucked! Now, Plotholes, Karen iPhone, hit that shit! How is the First Order able to send their legions to seize control of the galaxy in the aftermath of Death Star 3's destruction? They have just suffered a massive defeat which has damaged their military power and political influence. They are in no position to launch a galaxy-wide offensive. Our only explanation for the First Order finding the Resistance base is the Resistance has been exposed. How? By who? When? Did the Resistance know they were exposed? What happened? Why isn't Carrie Fisher's daughter hotter? Why doesn't the Rebel base have a shield? Why don't the First Order deploy their TIE fighters as soon as a Rebel ship approaches their dreadnought? If disabling the dreadnought's surface guns is essential to the Rebel escape plan, why do they deploy only one fighter to accomplish this task? Why doesn't Leia order the bomber fleet away from the dreadnought when she wants to retreat? If Leia has decided to give the bombing run a shot, why does she not then order sufficient fighter escorts to the bombers? Why doesn't Leia order the cruisers to lightspeed jump out of the battle when the dreadnought targets them? How do bombs fall in space without propulsion? Finn wakes up because the plot needs him now, just like R2-D2 in The Force Awakens. His first word after waking up is his second word is where's, and his third word is why has Luke Skywalker been replaced with a clone programmed to exhibit nihilistic misanthropy? The clone asks, where's Han? I would point out that Luke Skywalker would surely have detected his old friend's death through the Force, but as we have established, this isn't Luke. Rey tells Luke, there's no light left in Kylo Ren. Why then does she think she can fix him later in the movie? Why does the clone think the Jedi need to end? They are needed now more than ever. Why does Leia demote Finn after he successfully destroys a dreadnought? Her rationale is that he deserves his demotion because he lost the bomber fleet. Does Leia not know how war works? Military operations cost lives and materiel, and those lives and materiel are then replaced. And does Leia not share a significant portion of the blame here? She didn't provide a proper fighter escort for the bombers. Why in the name of Jabba the Hutt's death wank is this woman still in charge? She should have resigned in disgrace after she failed to detect the First Order's construction of Death Star 3. She has no legitimacy after her recent failures. Why is anyone still listening to her? So Finn shows up. Guess what's on his mind?
How's Rey gonna find us now?
Officer Karen says the plan is to get to a new base, which has enough power to send a distress signal to Resistance allies in the Outer Rim. But minutes later, Poe, Rose, and Rose's sidekick send a signal to the plot device from The Force Awakens, so why can the Rebels not send a signal now? Leia figures out that the fleet has been tracked through lightspeed, but conveniently for the plot, the Resistance only have enough fuel left for one jump. Why then does Leia not order every ship to jump to a random system of their own choosing? Hux tells us, keep up the barrage, they won't last long burning fuel like this, it's just a matter of time. But once the cruisers reach maximum propulsion, they can just turn their engines off and maintain the same speed. There is no drag flag in space to slow them down. Kylo carries out a successful assault on the rebel fleet with TIE fighters. The First Order order him to retreat, reasoning, "We can't cover you at this distance." Why does the First Order not deploy every fighter they have to annihilate the Resistance fleet there and then? Leia's Mary Poppins flight through space is one of the most iconic moments in the Disney sequel trilogy. I have nothing bad to say about it. It is as hilarious now as it was in 2017. Well done, Ryan. I could go on about how everything Luke says defies his characterization in the OT, but I'm done examining the rape of Luke Skywalker. How did a failed toilet cleaner get promoted to Vice Admiral? Why does Holdo maintain Leia's demotion of Poe? Leia is a serial blunderer who just got the entire leadership of the fleet blown up and almost died herself. At this point, the first act of the remaining rebels should be to strip Leia of all military authority and declare her recent orders null and void. If she survives, she will be a symbolic figurehead, but will never again be allowed to exercise military authority. There are only 400 rebels left, and the Resistance need their remaining officers, but Holdo affirms Leia's demotion of Poe out of spite because Poe had the temerity to ask her a question.
I just want to know what's going on.
Why doesn't Holdo tell Poe the plan? Holdo tells Poe, "Stick to your post." What post? You didn't assign him a post. You didn't assign anyone a post because you didn't present an actionable plan of operation to the fleet, you insufferable old-school SJW-looking bent. How is this potato sack able to talk? Oh wait, that's Rose, my mistake. How do the rebels have the full schematics of the Star Destroyer? How does the plot device know where the codebreaker is? Why do our heroic trio not realize the futility of going after a codebreaker who might not even be where the plot device says he is, and with no guarantee he will agree to help them, or that they can get him back to the fleet? This plan is a no-go. Since when was Force Skype a thing? How does physical matter move through Force Skype from one part of the galaxy to another? Why did Rose and her sidekick park on the beach where everyone can see the ship? Why did they not make an effort to hide their ship? Rose says, "There's only one business in the galaxy that will get you this rich: selling weapons." Is she really this uneducated about economics? On Earth, weapons sales and/or manufacture isn't even in the top 10 biggest industries by revenue. Why does a ship suddenly start floating in midair when it runs out of fuel in space? There is no midair for it to float in. If it runs out of fuel, it will simply coast along at the same speed it stopped at. Why does the pilot tell the failed toilet cleaner, "It's been an honor, Admiral"? No, it hasn't. This purple-haired moron got you killed through her criminal incompetence. After another cruiser is destroyed, Holdo tells Carrie Fisher's daughter to maintain current course. Why does Holdo not use this opportunity to reassure the crew that she does in fact have a plan? Oh look, Rose and her sidekick have, by an astonishing coincidence, been imprisoned in the same cell as a master codebreaker. Why do Rey and Finn initially refuse the codebreaker's offer of help? What else have they got going on in terms of a plan? How does the codebreaker knock a guard unconscious by hitting him over the helmet with a pair of leather boots? How was this uncanny valley CGI monstrosity allowed to rise from the depths of hell from whence it was spawned into the realm of the living? Why does Rose take pleasure in trashing the Vegas resort? The rich assholes aren't the ones who have to clean that shit up. The kids are. After releasing some of the CGI monstrosities, Rose tells her sidekick, "Now it's worth it." What are you talking about, you silly bitch? Those creatures are going to be rounded up and back at the track tomorrow. You didn't free them, you just created more work for the kids. Craggy Island shows up again, but instead of torturing ourselves with yet more tedious analysis of the Luke Skywalker clone, let's watch a clip from Father Ted.
I am Chinese, if you please. Come on, Dougal, lighten up.
So Yoda's Force Ghost shows up to burn Jedi texts. I fucking can't. Karen iPhone, just play another Father Ted clip.
Hello there, Father.
Hello, Colin. Out and about?
I am. Same as yourself.
Good, good.
I hear you're a racist now, Father.
After the rebels lose another ship, Poe demands to know Holdo's plan, and once again, for some unfathomable reason, she does not tell him the plan. What is Rey's plan for getting Kylo away from the First Order once she fixes him? When Poe presents Holdo with his plan, she refuses but does not tell Poe her plan. Again, there is no reason why she should withhold this information from him. Why doesn't Brienne of Darth execute Rose and her sidekick on the spot? Why is command returned to Leia after she wakes up? She's bad at this. Everyone would have recognized that she's bad at this and removed her from command. This woman is the Kathleen Kennedy of Space War. No matter how much she loses, she somehow retains command. Leia says Holdo's plan will work because they're not scanning for small ships. Why aren't the First Order scanning for small ships? And how does Leia know they're not scanning for small ships? After the First Order begin destroying rebel transports, why does Holdo wait 8 minutes to defend them? We'll skip the many problems with the throne room lightsaber fight, see Michael J's video.
Meanwhile, this one guard willingly throws his weapon away so Kylo can run him through. What? I don't get this.
I'll spare you from the 6,538th explanation from a YouTuber about why the Holdo maneuver breaks lore. Instead, here is a video from X Clips titled The Holdo Maneuver, but it's lore accurate. How are the decimated First Order able to organize an attack on Salt Hoth? Why is the First Order not in freefall? Why is there no geopolitical fallout from the death of Snoke and the destruction of his fleet? Why does Leia order a banzai charge to be carried out against AT-ATs with old junk equipment that no one knows how to use? And why is this woman still in charge? How did Rey get from the throne room to the Millennium Falcon without detection? Rose prevents Finn from destroying the First Order cannon by crashing into him. Right. Oh, fuck it, Karen iPhone.
Drink!
Don't do it, Father. I won't let you do it. I know it hurts, but believe me, you're gonna thank me for that.
How did Finn carry Rose several kilometers back to the rebel base across an open plain under enemy sights? So the clone's hologram shows up and does a fake-out duel with Kylo. Why did Luke not show up in person? He had his X-Wing, he could have gone to Salt Hoth in person to face Kylo, and maybe even kill him, but Disney was never going to let Luke be a hero again because Disney. Since when do Jedis die of a Force overdose? So at the end of the movie, Rey stands before the last remnant of the Resistance and says, "Snoke is dead, everyone. I saw his body with my own eyes, and the Holdo maneuver has shattered the First Order fleet. Me and Chewbacca have been broadcasting the news throughout the galaxy. From the second we got on the Falcon, major rebellions are already underway against the First Order in many systems." Then Leia says, "Excellent. We need to get to Coruscant immediately to coordinate the uprisings and the formation of a new republic." And the rebels speed off into a galaxy, breaking free of its chains, ready for the struggle to come. Oh no, wait, actually Rey doesn't mention Snoke's death, and everyone just assumes the First Order are still in charge, despite Snoke being dead, and his battle fleet destroyed, and no one broadcasts news of Snoke's death to anyone, and Leia asserts that they have everything they need to foment a new rebellion, completely ignoring the fact that the political conditions for total victory have just come into being in the past few hours. So, yeah, that was The Last Jedi. Okay, that is worse than The Force Awakens. I will be releasing my analysis of the somehow return of Palpatine next month. If you want more Star Wars content from the Despot before then, you can watch my Acolyte video, my TFA video, or my review of the now completely forgotten Solo: A Star Wars Story. By the way, Davis, have you subscribed yet?
No.
Well, you fucking will do now, Slag.
Of course. I apologize. I will subscribe immediately.
Now, I'm going to bomb Cloud City.
Check your fire, Skywalker. Those are civilians. Skywalker, what are you